Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic. Doctors of Reddit, what's your thank God they came in for a second opinion moment? I can't count how many I was told it was a headache, but I just wanted to come in and have it looked at in case it was something else I've seen. Of course, those are the patients that are the nicest and are profusely apologizing for wasting our time, and of course, those are the patients that have a brain tumor show up on their CT scans. Edit, well, this blew up. Big apologies to everyone, but I'm not a doctor. I work in the hospital alongside other doctors and I get the chance to see everyone they see. Apologies if I misled. That was not my intention, and I will make sure to be clearer next time. Were the tumors pressing on the Canadian cortex? Broke man's gold for you. Edit, man's rich now, thank you kind stranger. I was wondering about this. What kind of headache does a brain tumor cause? Like, what does it feel like? My daughter had a brain tumor at 14. It started out feeling like migraines, and she would throw up every time, but light didn't affect her. This went on for a couple of months before she started hearing a whooshing noise in her ear along with the headaches. It was a benign brain tumor the size of a grapefruit that was against her cerebellum. Scary times. Edit, okay, here is hoping this link works for her pic. Here it is, https://imga.com/jvv3mem. Actually, a headache is a very minor feature of brain tumors. That persistent headache, the one that you start getting freaked out about when it lingers for a few days, is often mistaken for a brain tumor too, but it's more likely a migraine, cluster headache, or tension headache. Headaches that are worse after lying down, that cause nausea or vomiting that worsens with lying down, or are associated with persistent neurologic changes. I'm an emergency medicine doc in the Midwest USA. The patient was transferred from rural nowhere to our tertiary care facility, big hospital with every specialist. Call was of really bad quality, but the transferring physician described a 21-year-old male that had rapid heart rate and breathing rate, low blood pressure, low oxygen, confusion, and a severe opacification on his chest X-ray on the right side. Diagnosed pneumonia. He gave him a ton of fluids, started antibiotics, put him on a ventilator, but he wasn't getting better, and wanted to send him to us. Sure, send away. An hour later the gentleman arrives, and looks young, fit, and not the type to just drop dead from pneumonia. We roll him onto our stretcher and find a huge stab wound in his back. The X-ray finding was his entire right chest full of blood. We put a tube in it, gave him back some blood, and he had to go for surgery to fix the bleeding. Lesson, look at your patient. Yet another morbid Monty Python sketch in this thread. We've done all we can with this patient, drive. Sky skimmer, and he just isn't responding. He has a big hole in his back and pneumonia, which we treated with a course of antibiotics. Sorry, he has what, again? A big hole in his back and pneumonia. That you treated with antibiotics. I mean, obviously we also gave him 4 fluids and put him on a ventilator, but did you apply a bandage? Respectfully, drive. Sky skimmer, do not bandage the lungs has been a point of emphasis for some time now. Tell me, have you been keeping up with the literature? You would think a patient would start with the well, since I was stabbed I have been feeling. You never know, could have been high, drunk, drugged, asleep, rushed on adrenaline, unconscious, and just never looked at his back. Dermatologist here. I have seen probably 5 instances of my other doctor told me it was fine that were melanomas. A lot of times people don't want a full skin exams. There are lots of perfectly sane reasons for this: time, perceived cost, history of personal trauma. However, I routinely find cancers people don't know they have. Keep this in mind if you see a dermatologist for acne and they recommend you get in a gown. Dermatology patient here. 37 years old, history of blistering sunburns, apex 30 to 40 over the course of my life, blonde hair, blue eyes. I go to the dermatology and ask for a full skin exam every damn year. 30 to 40 blistering sunburns. Dude, WTF. Edit, guys, I'm white too, I understand how sunburns work. 30 to 40 blistering burns, i.e. 2nd degree, is still extremely severe, lol. Especially at age 37. Edit 2, holy shit, rip my inbox that is now full of 1, old people explaining that Askreddit always exist, 2, white people explaining that lighter skinned people burn easier, oh wow, had no idea, or 3, People talking about how many blistering burns they've had. I don't care. I'm not responding anymore. Congrats on your skin cancer. Edit 3. For the handful of you that have mentioned burning while fully clothed in shade, you should probably get checked out regardless of how pasty you are, because that's not normal. I'm extremely pale, and I don't even burn unless I'm in the sun for at least 15 minutes. Not even in the Bahamas. I went to my former doctor about a mole on my arm that I thought had gotten larger, and asked him to biopsy it. He looked at it carefully and told me it was fine, but I insisted and things got a little testy, but he did it. It was a malignant melanoma, and had it gone 1 millimeter deeper I'd have been grounded for 5 years from my pilot job at best, or suffered dire health consequences at worst. After a surgeon removed a big chunk of my arm excising the melanoma and surrounding tissue, he told me to be sure to thank my regular doctor for saving my life. In the time since I've become well acquainted with your specialty as my first line of defense, having moles mapped and checked every 6 months for a while, and now every year. It sure as hell isn't all botox and laser hair removal. How did your OG doc react when it came back as melanoma? That's a pretty significant miss. Oh god, where to start? I literally just admitted this lady to ICU had been coughing for ages, 60-pound weight loss, smoker for 50 YRS. Now she can't breathe and I got a CT 6 cm mass, looks very suspicious for lung cancer. And the doctors for 4 YRS throughout this just gave her vitamin D/E even though she was losing massive weight and coughing up blood. Another guy who came in looked pale as a ghost. Chief complaint was fatigue. One lab test later found out his hemoglobin was 4, barely on the cusp of survival. Seems like he had iron deficiency anemia for YRS. Doctor gave him some iron, he got better but no one looked into why he got it. #1, 2, 3 reason in an older guy is colon cancer. He died 4 months later from metastatic colon cancer. Another story last month was about to take a long trip across the Pacific. 1 hour in on the flight they ask for a doctor, I volunteer myself. I see this lady literally gasping for air, like waving her hands in the air cause she can't breathe. Look through the meds, she's obviously an asthmatic. Listen to her lungs and faint wheezing, no air movement at all. I later grounded that plane because there was another 16 hours to go and she was on verge of being intubated. Later I get more story from family member. Apparently she wasn't been able to sleep well for past 2 weeks. Doctor just gave her sleeping meds, more and more of it. Told her flying no problem. I asked the family why can't she sleep. Is it because she wakes up in the middle of the night gasping for air, classic sign of uncontrolled asthma? They're like, yes, how did you know? Sleeping meds prob among worst things she could have gotten, and almost killed the patient by saying she could fly. People who get diagnosed with bronchitis when they have heart failure and literally drowning in fluid. There are doctors who give antibiotics and steroids for everything ESP when they have no idea what's going on. Maybe I'm biased because I work at an academic center, so I see all the cases who get referred in because they are too sick or no one can figure out, but at least a few times a week I'm like, wow, this person could have been saved or not end up this way if someone cared enough earlier on. I'm going to say this as a doctor. It's honestly scary every day how many patients I see are completely mismanaged. Some doctors in urgent care see like 45 patients in a day. How is that possible to be thorough? Like if only patients knew what the doctors missed or what not. Half the time I really think it's like going to a bad auto shop and not realizing they are just making half the shit up. Same thing happens in medicine, and except people's lives suffer because of it. Edit added a story. Thank you to whoever gave me silver/gold. Let me say something. People are saying I'm Gregory House or something. I'm not. I purposely didn't choose stories that were some esoteric diagnoses. Everything I picked is like bread and butter medical student level. Half of being a good doctor is knowing what questions to ask. Sometimes you don't even know what's important or not. The other half is caring. Too many just put a band-aid on the problem and punt the patient to someone else. Is it the doctor's fault? I don't know, but I do know the medical system in the US provides no incentives for doctors to actually practice good medicine. In fact, I bring in less money if I'm thorough versus I do the same thing every patient and see 100 patients a day, which is what some do unfortunately. I have tons more stories, hopefully I'll get to share some more, but for now have to sleep, was on call overnight. Edit X2, thank you again for all the guilds. I don't even know what they all do or mean, but I'm very grateful nonetheless. Few more things I wanted to say. There are plenty of amazing doctors out there, not all are bad. We all put our lives on hold for 10 years for altruistic purposes. Not everyone just wants to make a quick buck, so I hope I didn't characterize it as such. I tried to respond to some comments, but I don't have time to respond to all. A lot asked, so how do I find a good doctor? The answer is I don't know. I've tried looking for good ones myself and it's hard. I joke you should find the doctors all the other doctors go to because I have a higher BS meter when I meet a bad one. Doctor rating websites are garbage. I've seen doctors get great ratings because they just hand out opioids /benzodiazepines to everyone, even if all his or her patients become addicted later. A lot of it is really your gut feeling. A good one should listen to you and, most importantly, sometimes be confident enough to say I don't know but I'll look it up or send you to someone who does know. The scariest ones are those who don't even realize what they don't know. And the most perplexing thing to me, if you don't like an auto mechanic or realtor, you would find another, right? Do the same for doctors. It's your life, can be a difference between living or dying one day. Go find someone who will advocate for you, it's the least you can do for yourself. This makes me so angry because I had a stomach ulcer for over a year that 3 separate doctors just kept treating with PPIs. None of them did an endoscopy on me. It took the 4th doctor doing a second endoscopy to figure out that I had stomach cancer at 31. They even knew I had a family history of gastric cancer. It's stage 4 now because these idiots never bothered to actually treat me. Luckily it hasn't spread to any other organs and my oncologist is amazing and the treatment is working, but I can't help but be so livid that this all could have been treated over 2 years ago at this point and I probably would have had far better odds. Edit, since everyone seems to be so fucking hung up on my diagnosis, it has spread to my abdominal wall and a few surrounding lymph nodes but no other organs. Stage 4 simply means that it has spread away from the originating source. And fuck you for acting like I made this up. When I hear stories like this, I always wonder if you got in touch with the earlier doctors who just waved you off and tell them, oh hey, just a heads up, it was stage 4 stomach cancer. 'Cause I feel like that's what I'd do, if for no other reason than maybe they slow down and don't do it to someone else.